Commander Jake Morrison stared at the large screen on his ship's bridge. The message from the Galactic Council was playing for the third time, and his anger grew with each word. The alien leaders sitting around their fancy table looked down at the camera with cold eyes. They spoke about humanity like they were talking about pets. The human species will remain in probationary status for another 5 years, said Chancellor Vexther, the tall lizard-like Centauri who led the council. Their aggressive nature and primitive technology make them unsuitable for full membership at this time. Jake's hands formed fists. Primitive technology? Human engineers had fixed problems across the galaxy that these aliens couldn't solve in hundreds of years. Aggressive nature? Humans had stopped 3 wars between alien species in the last decade alone. Dr. Lisa Carter stood next to Jake, her face red with anger. She had spent 20 years of her life creating vaccines that saved millions of aliens from deadly diseases. Her work had stopped plagues on 12 different worlds. The aliens used her medicine every day, but they still called human science primitive. "Turn it off," Lisa said quietly. "I can't watch any more of this garbage." Jake nodded to his communications. "Officer," and the screen went dark. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Everyone on the bridge was human, and everyone felt the same burning anger. 300 years ago, humans had discovered faster than light travel and found they were not alone in the universe. The galaxy was full of alien civilizations that had formed the Galactic Council thousands of years before Earth even knew aliens existed. Humans were the new kids, and the aliens never let them forget it. At first, humans were excited to join the galactic community. They offered their knowledge, their skills, and their friendship. Human doctors worked on alien worlds. Human engineers fixed alien machines. Human diplomats helped solve alien problems. Humans always said yes when the Council asked for help, but the Council never treated humans as equals. Every time humans applied for full membership, the aliens found new excuses. Humans were too young as a species. Humans were too emotional. Humans asked too many questions. Humans wanted to change things too much. The worst part was how the aliens used human work without giving credit. Captain Ryan Torres had led joint military operations that prevented wars between the proud Centauri and the calculating Vorthok. The Council took credit for the peace, saying their wise leadership had prevented conflict. They never mentioned that a human had done all the real work. Jake's communication system buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. President Amy Logan's face appeared on the screen, looking tired and angry. Behind her, Jake could see other government officials from Mars Colony, Europa Station, and the outer settlements. "Did you see the Council's announcement?" President Logan asked. "We all saw it," Jake replied. "Same story as always. We're not good enough for them." "It gets worse," the president said. Her voice was cold and steady. "They just announced new trade restrictions. All supplies going to human colonies now need special approval from the Council. Medical equipment, food synthesizers, manufacturing tools. Everything." Lisa stepped forward. "That's insane. Half the colonies depend on those supplies. People will die." "The Council doesn't care," President Logan said. "They want to remind us that we need them more than they need us. They think they can use by controlling our supplies." Jake felt something change inside him. For 300 years, humans had tried to prove they belonged in the galactic community. They had worked harder than anyone else. They had solved problems that aliens couldn't solve. They had saved alien lives and prevented alien wars. And still, the aliens treated them like children who needed to earn their place at the adult table. "What are our options?" Jake asked. President Logan looked directly into the camera. "We've been discussing this for hours. The Mars governor, the Europa Council, and all the outer settlements agree. We have one option that might finally get their attention. What's that? We leave. The bridge went completely silent. Even the engine noise seemed to fade away. Lisa stared at the president with wide eyes. Leave? Lisa asked. You mean withdraw from council space? Completely, President Logan said. Every human ship, every human worker, every human scientist. We pack up and go home. If they don't want us as equals, then they don't get us at all. Jake's mind raced. Humans were scattered across hundreds of alien worlds. They worked in alien hospitals, alien factories, alien research centers. They kept alien machines running and alien societies peaceful. What would happen if all humans suddenly disappeared? The aliens will never allow it, Jake said. They'll try to stop us. How? President Logan asked. Are they going to declare war on us? Attack human colonies? That would prove to the whole galaxy that they're the aggressive ones, not us. Besides, we're not attacking them or stealing from them. We're just leaving. Lisa looked thoughtful. It would certainly get their attention. Humans handle a lot of critical systems across council space. If we all left at once. The question is, President Logan said, are we brave enough to do it? Are we willing to walk away from everything we've built in council space? Jake thought about all the times humans had been ignored, dismissed, or insulted by the council. He thought about human scientists whose discoveries were stolen by alien researchers. He thought about human diplomats who solved alien problems but never got credit. He thought about human workers who fixed alien machines but were never thanked. When do we start? Jake asked President Logan, smiled for the first time in the conversation. Immediately. I'm sending orders to every human ship and station in council space. Complete withdrawal, starting now. No warnings to the aliens, no explanations, no negotiations. If they want to know why we're leaving, they can figure it out themselves. What about the humans who don't want to leave? Lisa asked. Some people have built lives on alien worlds. Everyone comes home, President Logan said firmly. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when Earth walks away. Jake looked around his bridge at his human crew. They all nodded back at him. After 300 years of trying to earn respect, humans were finally going to demand it. Admiral Parker will coordinate the withdrawal, President Logan continued. Every human ship will help evacuate personnel and equipment. We have 48 hours to get every human out of council space. The communication ended, and Jake's bridge erupted in quiet conversation. His crew was excited and nervous at the same time. They were about to do something no species had ever done before. They were going to show the galaxy what it looked like when humans stopped caring about alien. Approval. Jake turned to his navigation officer. Set course for Centauri Prime. We have people to pick up. As the ship turned toward alien space, Jake wondered if the aliens would try to stop them. He wondered if they would even notice at first. But mostly, he wondered what the galaxy would look like when humans were no longer there to fix everything that went wrong. Captain Kate Williams looked at her watch as her transport ship approached. Centauri Prime. Exactly 8 hours had passed since President Logan gave the withdrawal order. In those 8 hours, everything had changed. Her ship was packed with humans. From the desert planet below, doctors, engineers, water specialists, and atmospheric technicians filled every seat and corridor. They had worked on Centauri Prime for decades, keeping the alien world livable for its billion inhabitants. Captain, we're getting urgent messages from the Centauri government, her communication officer said. They want to know why we're leaving. Kate smiled coldly. Tell them to ask the Galactic Council. The Centauri had always been proud of their beautiful desert cities and perfect underground environments. What they never admitted was that human engineers had designed most of their life support systems, Dr. Sam Green had created the air purification systems that kept their underground cities from filling with toxic gases. Engineer Maria Rodriguez had built the water recycling plants that turned desert moisture into drinking water. Now, all those humans were on Kate's ship, heading home to Earth. "Captain, the Zentari are begging us to stay," the communication officer sighed. "They're offering to pay us triple wages." "Too late for that," Kate replied. "We're not for sale anymore." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. Lieutenant Commander Alex Brown was loading the last human workers from Vorthik industrial stations onto his heavy transport. The Vorthik were mathematical geniuses who believed their precise calculations made them superior to human intuition and creativity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "The Vorthik station commander is demanding we leave our maintenance manuals," Alex told his crew chief. "He says it's council property." The crew chief laughed. "Those manuals are written in human languages, using human engineering concepts. Even if we left them, the Vorthik couldn't understand them." Alex nodded. The Vorthik had always dismissed human engineering as sloppy and unscientific. They never realized that human engineers had been quietly fixing design flaws in Vorthik equipment for 50 years. The aliens had built their fusion reactors and quantum foundries using perfect mathematical models. But math couldn't account for real-world problems, like metal fatigue and quantum drift. Human engineers could feel when a machine was running wrong. They could hear problems in engine sounds and spot trouble in energy readings. The Vorthik had called this human intuition primitive, but they had been happy to use the results. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over council space," Alex's communication officer announced. "Human evacuations are happening everywhere. The aliens are starting to panic." On Kelmora 7, Dr. Helen Ross was shutting down the neural research facility she had run for 15 years. The Kelmerians were an ancient species that had merged their organic brains with computer networks thousands of years ago. They thought this made them wise and logical, superior to purely biological species like humans. But Helen knew a secret that the Kelmerians had never figured out. Their cybernetic implants were slowly poisoning their nervous systems. A genetic defect in 20% of the Kelmorian population made their bodies reject the computer interfaces over time. Without treatment, these Kelmorians would face paralysis and death. Helen had been treating them in secret for years, developing biocompatible medications that let their bodies accept the implants. The Kelmorian government had never authorized her research because they refused to admit their perfect technology had flaws. "Doctor, the Kelmorian Science Council is demanding access to your research files," her assistant said. Helen typed a command into her computer, and every file encrypted itself with human security codes. "Let them demand. My research leaves with." "But doctor, thousands of Kelmorians will die without your treatments." Helen paused at the door of her laboratory. She had saved so many alien lives over the years, and it hurt to walk away. But the aliens had made their choice when they called human medicine primitive. Maybe they should have thought about that before they decided humans weren't good enough for full council membership, she said sadly. Captain Danny Foster was having the most interesting evacuation of all. His job was to remove human-designed components from council military ships. Most aliens didn't even know these components existed. Humans had a talent for making incompatible technologies work together. When the proud Zentari wanted to use Vorthik weapons on Kelmorian ships, human engineers had designed interface systems that made it possible. When different alien species needed to communicate during joint operations, humans had created translation programs that went far beyond simple language conversion. "Captain, the Council Defense Force is demanding we stop removing equipment," his engineering officer reported. "Tell them we're only taking human-made components," Danny replied. "If they want to keep them, they can buy them from Earth at full price. His engineers were pulling out tiny circuit boards and software modules that the aliens had never paid attention to. These small components were the hidden foundation that made the galactic military work. Without them, alien ships would lose. The ability to coordinate attacks, share sensor data, or even communicate effectively during combat. Meanwhile, in the civilian sector, the withdrawal was causing immediate problems. Captain Jeff Murphy was evacuating human traders and negotiators from the Galactic Trade Hub and Nexus Station. These humans had spent decades learning alien languages, customs, and business practices. They understood how to make deals between species that normally hated each other. The station commander is begging us to leave just one human trade specialist, Jeff's first officer reported. Not happening, Jeff said. If humans aren't good enough for the council, then human expertise isn't good enough either. Within 12 hours of the withdrawal order, the first alien systems began failing. On Centauri Prime, warning alarms started sounding in the underground cities as air purification systems struggled without human maintenance. The Centauri had the technical manuals, but they had never bothered to learn how the systems actually worked. Vorthic industrial stations reported strange quantum fluctuations in their manufacturing equipment. Their mathematical models said everything should work perfectly, but reality disagreed. Without human engineers to make constant micro-adjustments, the quantum foundries that built their starships were starting to produce flawed materials. Kelmora 7. Hospitals began reporting a mysterious rise in neurological problems among Kelmorians with older implants. The symptoms matched the genetic incompatibility that Dr. Ross had been secretly treating for years. President Logan watched the reports coming in from across council space. Alien governments were demanding explanations, offering bribes, and making threats. But the human evacuation continued according to plan. How many humans are still in council space? She asked Admiral Parker. About 40% of our people are still being evacuated, he replied. But the important technical personnel are already out. The aliens are starting to realize what they've lost. Logan nodded. For 300 years, humans had been the invisible foundation that kept galactic civilization running smoothly. They had worked behind the scenes, solving problems and preventing disasters while the aliens took all the credit. Now, the galaxy was about to discover what happened when that foundation disappeared. 3 months had passed since the last human ship left council space. Chancellor Vexter of the Centauri stood in his underground command center, watching disaster reports flood in from across his homeworld. The air in the room felt thick and wrong, despite the massive ventilation systems running at maximum power. "Sir, we've lost another residential district," his aide reported nervously. "The air purification system in Sector 7 has completely failed. We're evacuating 50,000 citizens to the surface camps." Vexter's scaled hands clenched into fists. The surface camps were a nightmare of heat and sandstorms. His people had lived underground for thousands of years, protected by perfect environmental controls. Now those controls were breaking down, one by one, and no Centauri engineer could fix them. "What about the human maintenance manuals?" he asked. "Sir, our best engineers have been studying them for weeks. The human writing style is too different from ours. They use words like feels, wrong and sounds off, instead of proper technical measurements. We can't understand their repair methods." Vexter walked to the main display screen showing Centauri Prime from orbit. Dark patches marked areas where underground cities had been abandoned as life support failed. His proud desert world was becoming uninhabitable because they had lost the humans who understood how to keep it working. Meanwhile, in Vorthic space, Admiral Kexfor floated in zero gravity aboard his flagship, staring at reports that made no mathematical sense. Half of his fleet was stranded in their home system because their quantum drives were malfunctioning in impossible ways. Admiral, the engineers say the quantum field fluctuations are within acceptable parameters. His science officer reported, according to our calculations, the drives should work perfectly. Then why are ships disappearing into dimensional rifts? Kexver demanded. We don't know, sir. The math says it's impossible. Kexver had seen those impossible rifts himself. 3 Vorthic destroyers had simply vanished during routine faster-than-light jumps, torn apart by quantum forces that their equations said couldn't exist. The human engineer Nancy Davis had warned them about this years ago, babbling about micro-corrections and intuitive adjustments that made no sense to logical Vorthic minds. Now, Kexver understood that Nancy had been preventing these disasters through methods the Vorthic couldn't comprehend or replicate. On Kelmora Prime, the situation was even worse. Senior network node Zelmer processed data streams from across the Yoza crystalline planet, and every report brought more bad news. The great neural network that connected all Kelmorian minds was fragmenting as cybernetic implants failed across the population. Node Zelmer, we have confirmed 17,000 cases of neural rejection syndrome, a medical subnode reported. The affected citizens are losing connection to the network. Some are experiencing complete nervous system shutdown. Zelmer's crystal body pulsed with distressed energy patterns. Neural rejection syndrome was supposed to be a myth, a primitive fear from before the Kelmorians achieved technological perfection. But Dr. Helen Ross had been treating it in secret for years, using biological medicines that the Kelmorian Science Council had dismissed as worthless organic chemistry. Access Dr. Ross's research files, Zelmer commanded. Impossible, Node Zelmer. The human encryption codes are beyond our computational abilities. The files remain locked. Across the galaxy, smaller alien species were facing their own disasters. The aquatic hydrants watched helplessly as their underwater cities flooded. Human engineers had been maintaining pressure seals that the original hydran designers had installed incorrectly centuries ago. Without those humans, the deep ocean was reclaiming their civilization one city at a time. The crystalline silicoids faced a different but equally serious problem. Their species communicated through harmonic vibrations that traveled through crystal, networks spanning entire continents. But the translation algorithms that let different crystal clusters understand each other had been written by human programmers who understood both mathematics and music. Without those algorithms, the silicoid civilization was breaking apart into isolated groups that could no longer communicate effectively. Ancient clan rivalries were erupting into open conflict as misunderstandings multiplied across their fractured networks. But the worst crisis was happening in the heart of Council space itself. Ambassador Carol Wright had spent 30 years carefully managing relationships between alien species that naturally hated each other. She had prevented 3 major wars through patient diplomacy and creative problem-solving that kept old grudges from exploding into violence. Without Carol and her team of human diplomats, those carefully maintained peace agreements were collapsing. It started small. A trade dispute between the Zentari and Vorthic over shipping routes escalated when neither side had human mediators to find compromise solutions. Within days, both species had recalled their ambassadors and were mobilizing their fleets. The Kelmorians, desperate to find a cure for their spreading neural syndrome, demanded access to hydran biological research. The hydrans, struggling with their own flooding crisis, refused to share resources. Ancient territorial disputes between their species flared into border skirmishes. Even worse, the galactic economy was collapsing. The complex trade networks that connected hundreds of species had been built on mathematical models developed by human economists who understood both alien psychology and market forces. Without those models, supply chains broke down and currency exchange rates fluctuated wildly. Food shipments that should have taken days were taking weeks as alien logistics officers struggled with transportation schedules they didn't understand. Medical supplies sat in warehouses because the distribution networks had relied on human coordinators who knew which species needed what. Resources. Chancellor Vexter received an emergency communication from the Galactic Council. Supreme Chancellor Vexral, the ancient Kelmorian who had led the council for over a century, appeared on the screen, looking more distressed than Vexter had ever seen him. Chancellor Vexter, we must discuss the human situation immediately. Vexral said, the council is calling an emergency session. What's to discuss? Vexter replied bitterly. We told the humans they weren't good enough for us. They listened. The situation is becoming critical, Vexral continued. Our intelligence reports indicate that human colonies outside council space are thriving. They're building new technologies and expanding their territory while our civilization falls apart. Vexter had heard those reports too. Human settlements on the galactic rim were growing rapidly, powered by innovations that combine technologies from multiple species in ways that should have been impossible. The humans had taken their knowledge of alien science and used it to create something entirely new. What do you want me to do about it? Vexter asked. We need to contact Earth immediately, Vexral said. We need to negotiate their return before more lives are lost. Vexter laughed bitterly. And what exactly do we offer them? The same probationary status they walked away from? We offer them whatever they want, Vexral said quietly. Full membership, equal representation, territorial concessions, whatever it takes. And if they refuse? Vexral was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a civilization facing its own mortality. Then, we learned to live in the galaxy that humans built, but without the humans to maintain it. 6 months after the human exodus, Chancellor Vexter stood on the bridge of his personal starship, approaching the edge of former council space. Behind him flew a desperate fleet of alien vessels carrying the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. They were going to beg. The irony was not lost on him. For 300 years, humans had come to council space asking for acceptance. Now the council was traveling to human space asking for help. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures ahead, his navigation officer reported. It's unlike anything in our databases. Vexter moved to the main viewer and gasped. Floating. In space ahead of them was a structure that should have been impossible. New Frontier Station stretched for hundreds of kilometers. A massive city ship that combined technologies from dozens of species in ways that defied every engineering principle. The aliens understood. Centauri environmental systems merged seamlessly with Vorthic quantum generators. Kelmorian neural networks interfaced directly with Hydran biocomputers. Silicoid crystal matrices supported structures made from materials that had never existed before. Only human engineering could have made such a chaotic combination work. This is impossible, breathed Admiral Kexver from his ship. Our species' technologies are completely incompatible. The quantum resonance alone should tear that station apart. General Pete Jackson's voice came over the communication system, calm and confident. Welcome to the independent human territories. I'm General Jackson, commander of New Frontier Station. State your business. Supreme Chancellor Vexral stepped forward on his ship's bridge, his ancient crystal body pulsing with nervous energy. General Jackson, I am Supreme Chancellor Vexral of the Galactic Council. We request an audience with your leadership. Hold position while we discuss it, Jackson replied. The communication cut off, leaving the alien fleet waiting in space like supplicants at a door. An hour later, President Amy Logan appeared on their screens. She looked older than when she had announced the human withdrawal, but her eyes held a strength that made even the proud aliens feel small. Chancellor Vexral, she said simply, I hear you want to talk. Vexral's crystal body flickered with embarrassment. President Logan, The Council wishes to discuss the return of human personnel to Council space. We are prepared to offer significant concessions, such as full Council membership for humanity, equal representation in all decisions, territorial grants to human colonies, technology sharing agreements. President Logan was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm but firm. And why would we want any of that? The question hung in space like a bomb. Vexter felt his heart sink as he realized the truth. Humans no longer needed the Council's approval. They had built something better without it. President Logan, Vexter said, stepping forward, our civilizations are collapsing without human expertise. Millions of lives are at stake. That's unfortunate, Logan replied. But it's not our problem anymore. Admiral Kexver's logical mind struggled to process what he was hearing. You cannot simply abandon the galaxy. Surely your human compassion compels you to help. Logan's expression hardened. Human compassion? Is that what you call it when we spent 300 years trying to help you, only to be told we weren't good enough? When we saved your lives and you took credit for our work? When we prevented your wars and you called us too aggressive? We made mistakes, Dex Rahl admitted. We were wrong about humanity. We see that now. You see it now, because your worlds are dying without us, Logan said. That's not understanding. That's desperation. Commander Jake Morrison appeared on the screen next to President Logan. Vexter recognized him from intelligence reports. Morrison had been one of the humans who had worked hardest for galactic peace, only to be dismissed by the Council time and again. The Council taught us an important lesson, Morrison said. They taught us that we don't need their permission to be successful. We don't need their approval to build great things. We don't need their membership to have value. Through the viewports of New Frontier Station, the aliens could see human ships moving in organized formations. These weren't the desperate refugee vessels that had fled Council space 6 months ago. These were sleek, powerful starships built with hybrid technologies that surpassed anything the Council had ever created. How did you advance so quickly? Kexver asked, his scientific mind fascinated despite the situation. Dr. Lisa Carter appeared on the screen, smiling for the first time in the entire conversation. We stopped wasting time trying to prove ourselves to people who had already decided we weren't worth their respect. Amazing how much you can accomplish when you focus on building instead of begging. Behind her, through the station's transparent walls, the aliens could see human cities growing in space. Families walked through parks built inside rotating sections. Children played in anti-gravity playgrounds that used Kelmorian field technology in ways the Kelmorians had never imagined. This is what we've built in 6 months, Logan said. Not because we're trying to impress anyone, but because we're finally free to be ourselves. We don't need the Council's permission to explore new worlds. We don't need their approval to make alliances with other species. We don't need their membership to have a future. Vexral's crystal body dimmed with despair. Then you refuse to return? We refuse to return as your servants, Logan said. If you want to work with us, it will be as equals. True equals, not the fake equality you offered while keeping us on probation forever. What are your terms? Vexter asked quietly. Logan looked at her advisors before answering. Complete equality in all decisions affecting human space. Full access to all Council technologies and databases. Reparations for the damage caused by your trade restrictions. And a formal apology to every human who suffered under your discrimination. That's impossible, Kexver said. The Council would never agree to such terms. Then the Council will continue to collapse, Morrison said simply. Your choice. The alien leaders looked at each other with growing desperation. Their proud civilizations were crumbling while human society flourished. The species they had dismissed as Primitive had built wonders beyond their imagination in just 6 months of freedom. "We need time to discuss this with the full council," Vexral said. "You have 48 hours, Logan replied. "After that, we assume you're not interested in our help." The communication ended, leaving the alien fleet floating in space, near the impossible human station. They had come expecting to negotiate with desperate refugees. Instead, they had found a civilization that no longer needed them. Vexler stared at New Frontier Station, watching human ships come and go with cargo from a dozen different worlds. These weren't Council worlds. These were new allies that humans had found among the independent species the Council had ignored for centuries. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "what do we tell the Council?" Vexler was silent for a long time, watching human children play in their impossible gardens among the stars. Finally, he spoke. "We tell them the truth. We tell them that the universe trembled the day Earth walked away, and it's still shaking. We tell them that humans don't need us anymore, but we desperately need them. And we tell them that maybe, just maybe, if we're very lucky and very humble, they might forgive us enough to save us from ourselves." The alien fleet turned toward home, carrying the news that would reshape the galaxy forever. The age of human subservience was over. The age of true equality was about to begin.